Awesome. Carl, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Really do appreciate it. I know it's getting late into the evening there for you. You just finished some coaching. I've done a brief intro on the back end about who you are, what it is you do, but why don't you take this moment to tell us who you are and what it is that makes you Coach Carl?
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So my name is Coach Carl. Well, it's actually Carl Greenslade, but I've kind of renamed myself as Coach Carl, which seems to have done quite well because that's how everybody now refers to me, which is good. Yeah. So I am an online coach. I am, if you want to call it, leader of the Roughnecks, which is kind of like my coaching kind of group and my clients. And when I say I'm an online coach, I mean as a nutritionist and personal trainer. I was a one-to-one PT for a long, long time back in Manchester, and then made the transition. Well, I was doing kind of a little bit of hybrid over the last sort of 3 to 4 years of online and face-to-face. And then I transitioned fully online, nothing to do with the kind of COVID issue that we've had, but no, actually just because I finally did my dream move of leaving the UK and going to a warmer climate here in Montenegro, which obviously forced me to have to move my whole business online. And to be honest, it's gone really well ever since, like incredibly well. And probably because I've been able to put solely more time into just the online stuff, I think is why it's probably gone so well, which is good. So I've been able to work on the business as well as in the business, so to speak, which has been great. And then, and it's like I said, it's just been going really well. And over in Montenegro, rescuing dogs when I'm in my spare time.
I love that. Yeah. I love the fact that your spare time is you rescuing random stray dogs, which is fantastic. Yeah. Now, we've had the pleasure of working together in business, and also I've been a client of yours. And what you do is absolutely fantastic. I love what you've created. And you mentioned the Roughnecks. And I think the Roughnecks is something very unique, and I think more coaches should really be learning about. I've seen, all those influencers, and everyone's now had to make the shift to online coaching. But the one thing I've really found lacking over here in particular, and just doing a bit of research, is the personal connection between clients. When we do that one-on-one coaching, it's always a bit just one-on-one, that's what it is. But I find that when you're in the gym atmosphere, you still get to meet other clients, but you've actually created a network with your Roughnecks. So why don't you tell us a bit about what the Roughnecks are and how you've kind of created that culture?
Yeah, cool. So I'll give you a quick backstory on why we're called the Roughnecks, first of all. So you and I used to work together at the kids camp, and we would always kind of come up with kind of names for the group of kids, so to speak, because we couldn't use first names, last names, or anything like that. So anyway, we'd been watching a film, I think, called Starship Troopers. All right, now in this Starship Troopers film, they would call themselves, it was like so Roughnecks, and it was Rico's Roughnecks, and I just remember that. So then I was said to our friend Chris, who was obviously at the kids camp with us. I was like, I'll call them Greenslade's Roughnecks or something like that. And he was like, oh, cool. And I was like, what would yours be? Because I didn't know his second name at this point. And he was like, no, I can't use mine. I was like, what do you mean you can't use yours? He went, no, my last name is Seaman. They'd be called Seaman's Roughnecks. And we were like, oh, right, okay, let's not do that.
Not appropriate.
Exactly. So that kind of funny moment stuck in my head. Dude, we're talking 2010, I think that was.
10 or 11, yeah. It's been 10 years, yeah.
So that was back then, and that kind of stuck with me. Now, then when it kind of came to, just kind of accidentally, really, because I guess I was already working with clients and stuff like that, and it was just kind of this one-to-one kind of format. And then it just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I wasn't even thinking of a group name. I think I just thought of that story or something or whatever it was, just me and Chris pissing around. And the Roughnecks kind of came to my head, and I was like, that's a great name to band a load of people together with, or that'd be a great name or a great call sign or whatever to create a community of awesome people, clients, and for me to help them. So that's kind of where the name came from anyway. And then in terms of bringing everybody together. So I'll be honest, I was, as a one-to-one PT, I'll throw my hand up and say I was pretty fucking good. Now, when it came to online, I struggled. Now, the reason why I was good as a one-to-one PT, because I'm very tactile, very personal. There's a reason why it's called personal training. I wasn't good I'm still shite at spreadsheets now. And that's the reason why I don't use them. So I'm doing everything in my business at the minute to avoid using spreadsheets. But it makes sense as to why I was so good with the hands-on style of coaching. It was really, really good. So when I went to online, man, did I struggle. Like I really struggled. I couldn't find that personal touch between me and the client. You know, I remember having 6 online clients and I had like a full roster of face-to-face and I was like, I can't do it. It's too much. My head's going to explode. Blah, blah, blah. You know, fast forward today, you know, I'm working with kind of 40 plus one-to-ones and then now groups. So obviously I had to, you know, kind of learn kind of how to do things in that sense. But with it being online, I was like, especially with what's kind of happened as well, it was like, look, we need to bring people together. It doesn't matter if it's face-to-face, doesn't matter if it's online. You need to be in a community group. So it's like one in, all in. You've got great people in your group will then help other people when they're down, asking questions, all that sort of stuff. And what I was finding was, like, what was amazing is obviously I'm educating these guys well enough that somebody will ask a question and somebody will pretty much just regurgitate the shit that I would tell people, right? Which essentially is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's great. So it means that they're listening to the stuff I'm saying, which is awesome. Really, really, they're getting their information from me, which I hope they should be because they're paying me to do it.
Oh,
you know?
I like the whole idea. I've heard a number of times, and I tell the clients all the time, the whole group identity. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, of having either a business or a group of people who are just nameless. So what do you guys call it? Oh, we work for Pepsi, so we're the Pepsi team. Like there's no identity in that. I find it actually really crucial for businesses if they've got teams to come up with unique team names, because it really allows them to not only, you know, bond with something, but it allows them to take pride, and it gives them something to show off as well. Like the Roughnecks, it's an iconic name. It's really cool, and to be part of, you know, Coach Carl's Roughnecks, like that is something that people will make an emotional connection with. And when they do that, they will invest more of themselves back into whatever it is that they're doing within that team, which for you is important because it's fitness, it's people's lives, and you want them to make that, you know, emotional connection to that group name, that community that they're part of, despite being the one-on-one and all online coaching, but still allows them to, you know, make that connection and know they've got someone on their team who's not just a nameless cog in, like, you know, a big organization per se, who, you know, doesn't really care. Say, I'm gonna go, I need to I'll lift me up. I'm going to talk to the Roughnecks, and you know who to go to. And, you know, I've talked to many clients about this, and I say, if you really want to unite your team, especially during this whole COVID time, if your team is down, give them a cool name. You know, just something that's really going to bond them. I don't care if you've got only 6 employees. Don't use your business name. Come up with something cool, because, you know, in 6 to 12 or 18 months, you might not have the same team. You might have to rename them, or if you go through a rebrand or something, it's a good time to change it. But having like that identity just allows, you know, them to connect. And I've seen the comments of people. Sometimes I've, you know, been watching the Roughneck pages, and you don't say that much. It's people, like, say, regurgitating what it is you've told them, and they believe in the message that you've put out, which is what leaders need to be doing to get their teams to be successful.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, uniting everybody under one banner, not one generic shitty banner that doesn't really mean anything to anybody, you know, but just having it under that name. And dude, like, it's cool because when, like, people are signing up with me, like, they'll have in their, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's really cool when it does. They'll kind of in their assessment, in their kind of their sign up form, the application, they'll be like, I want to be a Roughneck. And it's like, that's sweet. Like, that's cool. They want to be part of the team. They've seen obviously the results that, like, clients are getting anyway, which is absolutely awesome. And then, and yeah, so like when I kind of get little cool things like that, I'm like, okay, whatever I'm doing, it's working. So just keep doing it. So yeah.
Now, would you, like, here in Australia, things are kind of going backwards a little bit. So we've got some more outbreaks, and in Victoria, Melbourne in particular, they've just told everyone that, you know, go back to working from home. That's kind of the move to get things back on track. Because you've built an amazing, you know, Roughneck community, you've struggled, which you said, and, you know, you've grown through the process of moving online. Do you have a tip for those businesses out there who are looking to move their teams to be more online? Something that you would suggest that they do to continue to keep a culture going within their staff while we all work remotely?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, mate, the way the world is going anyway, I think you should have an online element to what we do. You know, I think I'm very fortunate to be slightly ahead of the game on that one. I was already doing online, so I didn't have to make any crazy changes. I just literally pivot. I had to pivot like minimal. Like honestly, I really did.
Mm.
I just had to work a little bit harder over that particular week to kind of make sure everybody was okay and stuff like that, and they knew I had their back and things like
Mm.
that. But for I think for maybe just kind of having a clear message and still making sure that you are still delivering the same quality and whatever the business is, obviously, but they're still giving the same quality, the same service, like through this medium. Doesn't matter that it's not face to face or anything like that. And also, don't be again, I'm kind of really just talking more to my industry here, but don't be now charging less and devaluing your services just because it's now gone online.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what I mean? Because it's still, I know some of my friends who are obviously in my industry that have done that, and they just felt that the online platform was, because they weren't one-to-one with their client, they just felt that they were giving them less value. And I was like, mate, not even at all. Like if you understood the way how the online stuff can work and how much more time they've got, right, ironically, more of your time, because you kind of become almost more accessible to them, as long as with whatever parameters you set. With my guys, I'm incredibly accessible to my guys, but my life is me, my dog. I live in a great, I've got minimal ties to anything else, so I can be that. It can be. Don't get me wrong. If somebody's going to message me at 10, I'm probably going to flip on the bird, and then I'll talk tomorrow, right? 10 o'clock at night, whatever. But overall, I would do my very best to quick voice note them back if they've got any questions that they need answering, whatever, that sort of thing. So my friends and my colleagues that devalued their services, I was like, look, you're not devaluing their results at all here. But I get why they did it, and then obviously now they're probably kicking themselves in the teeth a little bit because of how it happened. But I would definitely say, like, look, remember what what is your end product, what you're still trying to give your client, your customers, whatever. Just because the delivery has changed doesn't mean the service has changed.
There's a couple things I picked up in just what you said that's like everything you said spot on, 100%. There's two things I want to actually expand on. You said at the very beginning that when all this took place, you had to make sure everyone was okay, and that was like your first thing. The first thing you did was make sure that everyone's fine. That shows to me so much a maturity and emotional intelligence. There's a lot of crap going on right now. I'm not going to put aside the weights for a second and just make sure that everyone is okay, because that is a huge factor in business and fitness, that if our teams aren't mentally doing all that well, it doesn't matter how much I want to go lift some weights or go for that home workout. If I'm mentally struggling, I'm going to struggle. So the fact that you were aware that needed to be done is absolutely fantastic. I think more leaders really need to do that. And the second thing is, you said voice message. And this is something I've always really liked about what you did, is you'd often not type, and you would just send a 30 seconds, 60 seconds voice recording to answer a question that I'd sent through. And there's such a personal touch to that, where you're willing to, rather than sit there and type a message out, which is great because you do it in person, but still very impersonal. I think the message thing is great. I think more businesses and leaders should be doing this to really connect with their clients, but also their staff. If you've created a staff social hub on say Facebook or Microsoft Teams or whatever it might be, the ability to use a voice message is, it takes a bit more time. And I've said before, time is value. If you spend time on somebody, it shows that you value them more than doing anything else. So I would say also make sure you send voice messages to your employees, because with us being a bit more disconnected, any form of human connection is going to be great for our emotional spirits, which is going to boost us and allow you to do what you do best and get people training again.
Exactly. Well, dude, before this hit, like I was seeing some stats of, we were kind of coming around the corner of people wanting to get away from this world, like this internet world. So things like silent retreats were popping up here, there, and everywhere. Things to get away from phones, things to come back to, I'm not going to say kind of nature, of course, like, don't get me wrong, those services are definitely out there to kind of get really, really out there. But, a lot of people, and what do they call it? What's the new generation now? What are they, Generation Z?
Gen Zs?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, but it's like their generation now are kind of like, and some of us millennials we're literally looking to get off of this. Like we were done with it. And even with what I was doing, I was like, right, now here in Montenegro, I've got the mountains, I've got hikes, got all this, and this was going to become another part of what the Coach Carl's Roughneck was going to be. Now, even though I'm an online platform, I'm an online coach, but it was going to be come to me. Obviously, in Montenegro, things are just marginally cheaper. Most of my clients are from the UK, so it's actually not too far to travel either. Talking to £100, £200 flight. Probably because of my clients, I wouldn't even be charging them any more. You know what I mean? I'd be like, just cover all your costs. And then if it worked really well, I would have then opened it up, obviously, as an actual another string to my bow, or so to speak.
Yeah.
And it would have been a great service. Like, it would have been literally called the Disconnect fucking Retreat. And it would have been great, but obviously with this happened, that just threw everything out, mate, everything.
Yeah, it's the COVID thing's definitely challenged a few people, and you're right. People were wanting to put the phones down, get away from the computers. There was a great business study where a company many years ago banned all emails, internal and external. They just nearly went completely dialogue, and they'd fax their customers invoices. It was phone calls, it was letters. Things took a little bit longer. But the reason they did this is because they found a lot of their employees had no idea who was 3 cubicles down. They emailed the person every single day, and because of the technology, there was this massive disconnect within their workplace. And the boss was like, you know what, no more. We're done with emails. We're going to go back to an older fashion to actually make a personal connection. And the story goes that they lost a couple of clients along the way, but eventually those they kept, they retained, and they were so much happier. They got a whole bunch of new clients because it was a much more personal level. But now we're using platforms like this one to do our video meetings, and we've found ways to adapt because we don't have an option. We're now more tied to technology than ever. I've advocated a few times to make sure that we're using these platforms for social reasons as well, to do coffee breaks and your morning teas, to put the work aside, because I fear that if we focus so heavily on the technology to being a workplace tool, it will diminish the value to us as a tool to connect with one another. So I've strived to make it also a social aspect. That's why you see me in the podcast here, sip my coffee, because it's 5:30 in the morning. But making sure that you have that personal element, so it's not just your boss calling you on the computer to tell you you've not done something well or to hurry up with a project, but it's also those social aspects. I think that's really key. And so you've done a great job with your the whole culture you built. And it's a shame that we've gone this way. You can't do your disconnect, because that definitely sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Bit far from me, but maybe one day.
Sweet. It would have been so honestly, it would have been so wicked if I'd done it. But who knows? Like, let's see what happens over the next year, whatever. Maybe it's something that could potentially happen next year.
Well, that's it. I say back in December, if you told me there was going to be a pandemic while Australia was on fire, I would have laughed and said, no, that's not going to happen. And now here we are. It's we're all working remotely, and we're not able to shake hands or anything. It's it's a very different world. So who knows what the next 12 months will bring us in that aspect. But let's get back to a bit more. So fitness, I think there's a lot of correlations between fitness and leadership itself. I'd love to get your input on the values, if you feel the same, or why you think fitness is good for leaders.
Yeah, no, of course. So in terms of first of all, at the end of the day, when it comes to, you need a leader, right? You need somebody to lead people into into their journey or into whatever they want. But if I'm looking at this in terms of so if you've got I've worked with obviously some high level kind of CEOs and company owners and big decision makers basically, and honestly, they've kind of got me on board to kind of help them with their health and body goals, right? And some of the reasons why they'll bring me on board as well is because they know, because they're business minded, they're very aware that if they are in better shape, if they have better energy, they have better this, better that, which is going to come from their nutrition and their lifestyle, and their when training being a lifestyle, that they can be a better leader. They probably didn't exactly say it in those words, but they can definitely be better for their people. And also, sounds a bit stupid, mate, but this is very aesthetically kind of looking at this, but who doesn't respect, I'm talking about a guy here, because mainly a lot of guys with the CEOs I've been working with, who doesn't respect a guy who is filling out his shirt with chest, shoulders and arms, bowling into a fucking meeting, and everybody's just like, this guy is obviously taking charge now. Like,
Yeah.
and it sounds like, and I know it shouldn't be all that, but I'm sorry, but massive part of this. So even me, dude, why do you think I did incredibly well with my one-to-one stuff when I was working in Virgin Active, being a big gym? Was because I was talking my own talk and I looked the part.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's, so it's a huge part of me being advertising myself. You know what I mean? You know, I looked the part. People respected me for the way that I looked. And
I agree.
that, I think, is a huge ththing for leadership.
Well, you see, we look at the animal world. You rarely see that old decrepit lion or that old out of shape wolf being the leader of their packs and their tribes. There's definitely, you know, the strongest lead, and I feel as well there's a great correlation to confidence. You know, that person, you know, be it a purely physical thing, if they look physically fit, we often believe that they could be mentally fit as well, and they've got the strength to, you know, so how support us. And as you know, people within a team, we want to make sure our leader is willing to step in front of us, protect us, and have our back. And having someone who's, you know, in good shape for a lot of people is a subconscious thing. Say that person's going to really help me. Like they're going to protect me. Whereas if they're winded after going up a couple of flights of steps, it's just like, can I really count on them in the crunch? Are they gonna have my back? It's a lot of people would doubt that, and it is a purely superficial thing. I know there are some super fit people who are not great leaders. They're like mentally and emotionally weak. I know some people who are very much out of shape and the complete opposite, but those are different hurdles to get over. But what you said, when someone walks in a room and they did, you know, they're well looked after, they're looking good, everyone's like, that person is, you know, they're on it. You know, I feel comfortable around that individual, and they will hopefully support me. I recently saw, it's an older video. I saw it years ago. I saw it again recently. I can't remember who it was. It was an older businessman, and he actually said that people should not be going to the gym because it's a waste of time when it comes to business. And it was a very interesting thing. He said pretty much, if you spend all this time at the gym, that's 2 hours worth of your day where you could be making cold calls, and you're actually being detrimental to your business. I personally don't agree with that. What are your takes on a comment like that, where if I wasn't here, I could be making cold calls or doing more work?
I think he's an idiot, quite frankly. Like, he's not looking at the long game at all there. He's looking at short, instant gratification of, can I make more money right now? Like, that's how that individual is looking. At the end of the day, like, how many calls is he going to make when he drops down dead before everybody else?
Definitely.
You know, like, what good is he? What good is he to anybody then? What good's that fucking shiny car? What good's that big house? What good's that massive giant TV you've got when you're dead, mate?
Yeah.
Useless.
Yeah.
Don't know. You should, and remember, like, when at the end of the day, mate, like, when you look after your health, you can look after, I always say I must say it's more to moms really, because it's kind of relevant reference to them, but it works in this sense as well. When you look after number one, you can look after being you. You can serve number 2, 3, and 4 so much better, right? So when you look at that in business, if you are looking after yourself, that means that you have the ability to, and when we say looking after yourself, that means spending that fucking hour. But like, let's put it this way. First of all, actually, so that guy is incredibly uneducated, thinking that the only way you can get healthy is to have to spend 2 hours in the gym, first of all. So his actual information is dog shit. Yeah. So he's not coming from a point of relevant facts whatsoever.
Yeah.
The point being is, actually, somebody only actually needs to spend, if they're working with me and they say, Carl, I've got 3 hours a week I could spend in the gym, I'd be like, fine, that's all we need. And I would make sure that those 3 hours are good for them, split across 3 days, because the rest of the actual health other side of things, in terms of, especially when we talk in health, that seems to correlate a lot to weight loss when we talk about the two together. Again, comes back to the whole, when you focus on the other 23 hours of the day, that's what's going to get you the results. And that's essentially your lifestyle and your food.
Definitely.
Yep, cool.
And I agree with you fully. I also find that for me, when I do my morning sessions, I've won. My first challenge of the day to go lift heavy things and put them back down and do that 12 more times. Like,
it's so funny.
I've won.
I just lift things.
Yeah. What do you do? I pick heavy things up and I put them back down, and I do that as many more times as I possibly can and see if I can make them heavier. and then put them down again. Uh, but I find my day is so much more productive. Like I've already switched my brain on. I'm, I might be in the gym thinking about work or whatever, but my thoughts are more productive. I've won, and it's a great way to start the day. Another great author and speaker, Jocko, he talks about, the early morning wins. And a lot of people talk about making your bed first thing in the morning because it's a good way to win. You start your day off right. I don't make my bed. I've got too many dogs sleeping on it, like I'm sure you do as well. I get up and get at it. But I find going to the gym for the morning for me is great because I've emotionally turned myself on. I'm feeling happy. I've been successful, whether I've lifted my best, whatever, but I've taken a step forward to do something better for myself and for the business for the day. I'm really productive. And I like your whole, if you've got 3 hours, that's fine. That's all we need. We'll make that time productive and successful for you. I've been talking to a few people recently about the difference between productive versus being busy. I find a lot of people love to brag, oh, such a busy day. It's like, yeah, but did you accomplish anything? And, I've only trained 3 hours this week. Yeah, but have you accomplished anything? Well, yeah, I've actually been more successful in losing weight or gain more tone or gain strength by doing this small amount of exercise versus, the 12 hours I was doing before. I was seeing nothing. I was just running around. And I see a lot in business and leaders where they're like, oh, we're very, very busy. I'm like, well, are you successful? Is anything actually being accomplished? Are you reaching your goals, or are you just running around? And it's a weird concept when you start becoming more aware of it, that I've had days where I felt like I've been pretty lazy in the office, and I look back and go, no, I accomplished some really big things today. It was a very productive day. And the day before, it's like I was super busy. What did I accomplish? Very little. And you're right, it's using that the whole time and being aware of, using those small, like those 3 hours of training to set you in the right path and being productive and really kicking things off.
Agreed. Mate, do you know what? Coming back to the whole morning thing as well, like not only is it especially for people in business who are busy days, whatever, is like, first of all, you feel smug as fuck when you train first thing in the morning because you've got it all done and you crack on, and it's like 7, 8, 9 p.m., whatever, a.m., sorry. And then you've got the rest of your day to do whatever you do. Yes, you definitely feel more awake than everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible morning trainer, but fortunately, when you are an online coach, you don't wake up for nothing. You have 0 alarms, which is amazing, right? But the point actually being is, I would always say, in terms of like a top tip, is if you are that busy person, like I highly recommend that you get used to training first thing in the morning, because the morning is the only time, or I would say 90% of the time, it is the only time that nobody can take that time away from you.
Yeah.
All right. So whether that means you have to sacrifice a bit more sleep, or ideally you would just get to bed a bit earlier, that would be the ideal scenario, to allow that to happen. I really, really think that is the smartest way, because the amount of clients that I was working with, they would be like, oh, I planned to do it in the evening. I'm like, why did you fucking even bother trying to plan? It won't, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So because you basically, all you were doing is you were giving yourself an out.
100%.
So the smartest thing in terms of like, if you are that busy individual, whatever it is, like get used to training first thing in the morning and have that. And even if you don't like it, even like, look at me, like if all of a sudden you said to me, Carl, you're a PA, you just went bang, 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 you've got no time to do anything. You can't even scratch your ass. But the only time you do have is in the morning to go and train. Mate, I just have to get used to it. It might take me a couple of weeks, but I end up doing it eventually.
Yeah. I personally know, like, because you're right, I agree. Like when you say, "Oh, I plan to do it later," those the language that people use to give themselves an out. It's, I'll try. If you say you're going to try, the likelihood of you doing it is very slim, because you've already given yourself that out. I've already admitted to the person that there's a chance it's not going to happen. So when we tried to go to the gym this afternoon, you've already subconsciously said, oh, there's a chance I'm not going to do it. I know I'm very much like that when it comes to afternoon fitness, where I'll be on the drive home from a client, and it's like, oh, home's just right there. And I deliberately find gyms that are on my flight path. I don't go to a gym that's out of my way, because I know that I'm looking for less excuses in my life. So my gym's on my way to and from places. There's two. I go to. I've got a membership at Anytime Fitness, so I can go to a couple. Either way, I have to leave my house. I have to go past one of my gyms. So I'm trapped. And it's fantastic. There's no excuse. But I've been in places before where it's like, oh, I've got to travel past my house on my way home from work to go to the gym. It's kind of like I can just pop in there, see the dogs for half an hour, and then 8 hours later, it's, the next day, it's like, oh, I didn't continue through. So I think, people making themselves accountable and really setting those morning goals. Like I'm a big morning trainer. I love it. So obviously you're not. I think in business as well, people need to be really aware of those triggers of when they're putting things off. I'll try to do that later, or I'll put that off, and I won't, accomplish those hard tasks where in the morning you're full of energy, hit some of those hard things right away, pump them out, and when you succeed, you feel so much better. It's like let's go in the gym, do a hard project at work, deal with a hard issue. First thing in the morning, I'm going to do that because as the day goes on, our energy drains because we've been working for so many hours and we don't have the energy to input into the same level of success for whatever we're trying to tackle as the day goes on. That's what I also find my afternoon training sessions, whenever I do them, are less productive because I'm already run down from being up since 5 o'clock or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
But
no, agreed, mate.
yeah, no, I think like the whole fitness culture and leadership very much go hand in hand. There's a lot of good mentality behind what it is that you do about, building your culture within your online platforms and getting people to, feel successful and happy. I also love the fact that you show off to have your clients even showing off their results. And it feels very less, braggadocious coming from your platform, where sometimes you see these other fitness trainers are like, oh, they're just throwing out, oh, look at all these great results, but these people themselves are putting their own results out and they're saying how happy they feel within your community, and it really has created a warm, welcoming environment, where people feel that they're, it's real and they're going to actually deal with a real coach. And I hope people listening to the podcast or watching the video, when they're thinking about trying to, create that culture within their workplace or looking to move their coaching to do more online or start their online PT coaching, they've considered how to make people feel welcoming. Because when people feel welcome, they feel safe. And that's a big thing in leadership that we deal with is, and I would imagine in fitness it's the same thing. We want to find a coach that we feel safe with, because I need to be vulnerable. I've got to send you photos of me in my boxers for my, my weekly photos, or my before photos, my after photos. And if I don't feel safe within that environment, I'm not going to want to do that. I might feel, at risk of being personally attacked by other members. And it's the same thing with the workplace. When you don't have that confidence that your leader is going to be protecting you, it comes back to that whole strength thing. If you don't have that leader who's going to protect you, you're going to feel you're constantly under attack. And when we're always on the defense mode, we never really make any growth because we're just trying to hold our ground. Do you find that a little bit with PT as well? When people feel a bit unsure, they're so really stubborn, they're kind of dug in, they're not willing to try something new because they're very defensive about what they've learned?
Yes and no, really, mate. I think but most of the people that, especially these days, do you know what? More so when I was doing one-to-one coaching, I would find I was working with people who honestly didn't really want it. Sounds a bit weird. They were paying the money, but they didn't really want it. And I'll hold my hand up and say, I was a new PT. I was like, well, this is how I earn a living. I'm going to do as much as I can with this person to help them. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Right? Fair enough. These days, I am quite fortunate that most people, I would say 90% of the people that I work with these days are ready for, they've tried multiple different things and they're like, I'm ready to do something different. So and they probably followed me for a while as well. That's the big thing about the social media side of things. We're talking more heavily kind of Instagram, which I would say probably 90% of my clients come through Instagram at the moment. They know me. They already know me. So the barrier is already kind of dropped of, I don't trust him. I don't want to tell him my, kind of, it sounds a bit weird, but you do get to learn people's deepest, darkest secrets when you are a coach. And even so, me personally, I've managed to keep that as well as being an online coach, which is kind of like, some people might find a bit weird, but which again, I think it's kind of, I'd like to hold my hand and say testament to kind of how I treat my guys, is that they will tell me there's some of their things that they're not telling anybody else, even on an online platform. Which is all part of the personal training side of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're fortunate in that sense. They're quite open and honest, and they trust me, and they know where things are going to be going and stuff. So, but mate, at the end of the day, like if somebody no, I do an importance pyramid, right? Of kind of like, what gets results, and kind of to teach people that if you're doing this thing, normally people kind of get it wrong by, I show them the pyramid, and the peak of the pyramid, which is kind of the least important. Everything is still important, but the peak of the pyramid is what we call like classic cardio. And that's what most people go straight in to do because that's the only thing they know. But actually the foundations of this pyramid, which is actually what's important, it's one that I adapted, and that I put in was ready for change. Yeah. So your head has to be in the right place, because I don't give a fuck how many tools or things that I throw out at a client, ways of coaching or whatever. If they do not want it, it's not going to happen. Just because they're paying for it, some clients think that when they pay for it, it's automatically going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's not it. You've got to graft. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be there with you the whole way. Very, again, like I spoke to before, very accessible throughout this whole journey as well. Never at any point should you really kind of feel alone throughout this journey. But if you don't follow what I ask you to do, I don't tell you to do anything. I just suggest and ask you to do these things, as you've outsourced this problem to me.
Yeah.
So I suggest you fucking listen. And
spot on.
But quite frankly, mate, if they don't, the saying, you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make a drink. And it's the same thing. If nobody wants it, if they don't really want it deep down, or it's somebody else's idea, they're not going to get the desired results they want.
100%. We deal with that a lot with clients who say they've had their staff are not interested in either our one-on-one coaching or our team events, and the root problem usually is that their leader did not want a past improvement. And I've seen it time and time again where businesses will send somebody away on a training program, say, you're going to go take this new diploma course, we're going to pay for it. The person goes, learns some amazing skills. That person's like, yes, I get some personal growth. They're invested. They want to do this for the first time. And they come back to work and they're like, hey boss, let's talk. And they're like, hold on, your emails, go play catch up. We'll schedule a meeting next week or a week later, whatever. Those meetings never happen. There's zero accountability. That person then instantly loses all that motivation that they had for that new skill and all these ideas because the boss doesn't care. And talking to a lot of people, I found that that's the biggest issue of why they don't like personal development programs, like leadership programs in particular, is because the boss doesn't care. The boss doesn't really want to make a change. They want to show like they care. It's like, oh yeah, I pay for a PT. I pay, $6,000 a month. It's like, you're not fit. Yeah, but I'm doing it. It's just like, do you really want to make a change? It's like, not really. I want that, I want that gold sticker being like, hey, look at me. I've got PT. I've got this, super famous person who's my PT. It's like, yeah, but you're not, you don't really care. And I find it for what we do, it's one of our biggest hurdles is trying to explain to people why they need to hold themselves accountable when they do these leadership or any training program. It's that if you're not really willing and ready to make some changes, you're not going to get the results you deserve and that you want. And it's going to feel like a waste of money because like for you, if you got people who are paying you good money to do training and they're not listening to any of your advice, it's like, what'd you have for lunch? Well, I had a pizza. Again, it's, it's like, that's not what I recommended you to do. And you're not getting the results and they get burnt out. And then they fall away from that industry on a whole. They're less likely to go find another PT because it didn't work last time. But it all comes down to that accountability and making sure, like you said, that you're really ready to make a change. Because until you are willing to say, I'm unhappy with where I'm at and I need to make a change, you're not going to do anything about it. There's always tomorrow to put it off for another day.
Agree, mate. Yeah, and the thing is, coming back to the whole like, like the boss. So like, I guess when people are coming to do your stuff with the adventure days and stuff and team building and things, it's okay. If I'm assuming it's the boss's idea or whatever, to make this happen. But yeah, if they now do this day, they have a mint time, awesome, cool. They go back. If shit just goes literally back to what they were doing, like old school habits,
yeah,
that week was almost almost pointless.
Oh,
You could, it's like sending, like you could send like Tony Robbins, that's the
yeah,
name, isn't it?
Tony
Like
Robbins. Yeah.
send him into any place, any industry, any office, whatever.
Mm.
He would get in there. He would G everyone up so much, right? And then when he's gone for maybe even a week, they'd be smashing targets. They'd be high-fiving everyone. The group environment would be amazing. It'd be good. Give it next week, that'll drop off a little bit more. Go again, that'll probably drop off again a bit more. 2-3 weeks in, dead, gone. Why? Because the guy who set it up, i.e. the leader, the boss, whatever, fucking didn't continuation of there was no follow-up.
Yeah, zero care.
follow-up.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that we do with a lot of our programs is even on our single team days, we do like a post-event report and say, here's what we saw, here's some recommendations, here's some things that you can do, and then we follow up again to hopefully trigger them to hold themselves a bit more accountable, because that's definitely the biggest issue with any training program. Be it leadership or customer service, is you get this diploma or whatever it might be, and then what? We'll go back to doing things how they were because that's comfortable. And that's definitely where a lot of people make that mistake, is they fall back into what's comfortable because that's what they know, regardless of being successful or not. It's like, oh, why do it this way? Well, it's because we always do it this way. Well, it's not working. Yeah, but it's how we've always done it. This is how I've always trained. This is how I've always deadlifted, and why can't you walk anymore? It's because you've done it wrong or whatever it might be. And, the whole accountability is key. One of the things that I'm going to be fully open and honest about, I've stolen principles from you with a lot of our coaching, especially our leadership coaching, the one-on-one stuff, is small little changes over an extended period of time, rather than shocking the system, being like, all right, you want to lose weight, you're going to stop drinking coffee, you're going to stop having sugar, you're going to stop eating carbs, you're going to stop this. And like the list gets massive, all these big changes. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And it's like, I can't handle that massive shock to the system. I know a lot of businesses, sometimes they make too many changes. And deal with one of our clients, they wanted to make some real big changes within the workplace culture. And it was very much a tiered step. It's like, this is what we're going to start with on month 1. And it was, let's get a fruit bowl. And your job is to keep the fruit bowl full and not talk about it. Just have a fruit bowl in the office. Your job is to make sure that's full. And that's it. It's like, next month, we're going to continue that because you got that in your habit. And then we're going to grow onto a new aspect. We're going to build off that fruit bowl. But I said, I want you to do a fruit bowl. I want you to make sure everyone's having coffee breaks. I want you to be dragging everyone out of the office at 5 p.m. Friday, if not earlier. I want you to do all these things. It's a big shock. And I'll definitely say you gave me that idea as one of your clients, make sure you do these small little changes, because it's easy to do the small things over time and build up to a much larger. It's like lifting weight. You deadlift 200 kilos. You didn't start doing that. You started at 10 and you build yourself up. And I gotta say kudos to you, because I think that's one of the great things that I've learned from you, and I'm definitely passing on to my clients, is start small and build on that. And that's how you lift the heavy stuff in the end.
Agreed, mate. Agreed. And that comes back to that whole, I always forget the word of this. It's a Japanese word, like Kaizen or something like that, which basically means daily improvement, small, incredibly small, but daily improvement. I'll have to Google that shit. And that's what it's about. And then in my world, essentially, when we talk to lifting, like, that's progressive overload. You're doing a little bit more than you did last week. And that's the fruit bowl analogy right there. You stick a fruit bowl out, didn't say anything about it. Cool. And then you'll have the next thing. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then it just happens over the course. It's 3 months time, and all of a sudden, the start and the after is totally different because of these little implementations that happened over the course of those 12 weeks.
Yeah, and I find with like leadership and culture, we have these people come in and they try to change too much too fast, and the team doesn't believe it, because you've mentioned a couple of times, you look the part. Like, you look like that jacked PT, and if you're listening, go check out his Instagram. You'll hate him forever. Yeah, flex. Yeah, right there. That's why no one likes you. But you look the parts, and if you came in looking the complete opposite and be like, I'm going to turn you into this figure that's nothing like me, there's less for me to believe in and less for me to buy into. And we do the same idea with our coach, our clients, and saying, you need to buy in first. But if we're going to make some real changes with your workplace, it all starts with you, and it starts quietly with you. You start making these positive changes yourself. And fitness, I would imagine, goes the same way within households. You know, if dad or mom starts going to the gym, start eating healthier, the rest of the family, if they're not preaching, but eventually starts to notice the changes in their diet, the changes in their behavior in the office place. And when the boss comes in and says, we're going to try doing this, or mom says, we're going to try doing this now, everyone believes it because they've witnessed the actual results. They've witnessed somebody else doing it. The last thing I try to get my clients to do is, you know, go in and make some changes. Say, we're doing this now. It's like, if you haven't done it, if you haven't tested it and implemented it yourself, they're not going to believe that you're willing to actually do it yourself. So demonstrate first that, A, you can look jacked like Carl and we hate you for it. And, you know, do all these things properly, and then start promoting to your team, because they'll believe you. They'll see the proof is in the pudding, the low calorie, low carb pudding.
No, Gary, mate, it's definitely, mate, carbs are all good. You know, I got you eating carbs.
You did. I was the one thing that was like, I like my carbs. You're like, I love my carbs. I tell people all the time, like, look at his stuff. He eats bagels like all the time. And so and a
There's
lot
not
of their,
three go dry where I don't eat chocolate.
yeah. See, there you go. It's, you know, flexible dieting, flexible leadership. There's so many correlations between being a good leader and being fit. I definitely agree with that guy who saw the video saying, you know, working out in the morning's a waste of time. I think we're both on the same page. Start your day off right. Being fit physically helps you mentally. You know, when you feel bad, you know, physically, it really drains on your mentality as well. You're less successful as a leader and in the office. So definitely get out there, get healthy. You'll look after your team. But we're about to run out of time. But I want to know, we're working from home more. We've talked about a couple different ideas of what we can do to connect our team. Do you have a tip for people for keeping active while working from home? What's a little recommendation, a golden nugget you can give the people listening today?
Yeah, do you know what I guess? I guess this kind of works in business and in health, is, and I think more for productivity levels as well, is work in sprints, which allows you time to get off the laptop and go and wander, do stuff. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, ideally you want to kind of fill that time when you back off with a bit of activity. So the way in terms of that, I would say, like for instance, from what I've learned when I'm on the laptop, I'm not great on the laptop, honestly. Like I'm probably the one person that tries to stay away from the laptop. And ironically, I actually try and do more from here because I want to be as mobile as possible. Because I don't want to be stuck in this tapping away on laptops.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people are. So like working sprints. So you basically kind of get in there, you get, an hour to hour and a half dedicated work done. And then you actually back off for like half an hour, basically 20 minutes, half an hour. And you use that as an actual break, so, and ideally, depending on how you structure your day, go and fucking move. Just go walk, go whatever, break away with some, headphones in, music, podcast, whatever it needs to be. Understand that, the most important thing that the most underrated helpful tool that people have that they do not use is basically getting their step count up to improve their health, improve their health markers by losing weight, getting lean, all that sort of stuff. It's free as fuck, so I don't know why people aren't doing it more. A lot of people just moan that they can't find time for it because you have to trade time to get it done. Yeah. So you've got to be looking at ways in your day where you can actually get that in there, and make it work for you. I don't care how you do it. You can space it out. You can do it one massive hit, whatever. That is, I've always found is those two married up together for movement and work in sprints, and your time that you back off, go off and move.
Fantastic. Love it. I'm going to make sure that in the description of the podcast, this video, we have all of your socials down below so people can reach out to you, ask you any questions they have, hopefully get a few new roughnecks from around the globe who are looking to get jacked like you and show off on video and stuff.
Cool.
I want to thank you so much for taking time. I know it's getting probably close to 10:30 for you over there. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day. You're awesome. Thank you for everyone listening today. And remember, you got this.